industries in the world demand as much scrutiny and regulation as pharmaceuticals. In medicine, quality is non-negotiable.
The World Health Organization.
Since 1948, the United Nations body, the World Health Organization, has been the foremost authority on pharmaceutical standards around the globe. Only companies who successfully pass their rigorous inspection process are awarded the World Health Organization pre-qualification standard. This seal of approval ensures customers that a brand of medicine meets the strictest safety and quality control standards in the world. Of 900 pharmaceutical companies, Getz Pharma is the only organization to have received this certification. Our facilities are equipped with state-of-the-art machinery explicitly designed to prevent cross-contamination by using continuous environmental monitoring. All our raw materials are procured solely from WHO or US FDA validated suppliers and are carefully audited before they are declared compliant. Our quality control laboratories and product testing departments remain at the forefront of our manufacturing process. A series of stability testing procedures allow us to guarantee that our medicines maintain their quality long after they've been delivered to pharmacy shelves. We have taken great care to simulate environmental conditions to ensure that medicines retain their efficacy and longevity in our particular climate. In accordance with WHO guidelines, our employees are highly qualified and regularly receive training in Europe and Japan, keeping us at the cutting edge of rapid advances in pharmaceutical research. Our quality guarantee makes us the only pharmaceutical company which can sell medicine to global bodies such as UNICEF and that are approved for sale by international markets. Today, Getz Pharma is the single largest exporter of pharmaceutical products. But more importantly, our WHO certification means that doctors and patients have access to the best quality medicines in the world at affordable prices. At Getz Pharma, we are proud of this achievement. We believe that our people deserve the same access to quality medicines and medical care the world over. Because where you live should not decide if you live.
Good afternoon to you all. I would like to welcome all of you for today's webinar on how to manage pneumonia on children. I would like to warmly welcome our eminent speaker for today's webinar, Dr. Deepal Pereira, consultant pediatrician at Lady Ridgeway Hospital, Colombo. Dr. Deepal Pereira is the external examiner for MBBS, University of Colombo, external examiner for MBBS, University of Sri Jayewardenepura, examiner, Postgraduate Institute of Medicine, University of Colombo. Dr. Deepal Pereira is having diploma in nutrition in year 2015, in year 2000 MRCP CH, in year 2002 October, in year 2000 July MD, Doctor of Medicine in Pediatrics, University of Colombo, Postgraduate Institute of Medicine, DCH, Diploma in Child Health, 1997 December, University of Colombo, Postgraduate Institute of Medicine. In November 1992, MBBS, University of Colombo. Dr. Deepal Pereira has undergone series of training locally and internationally over the past few years. And Dr. Deepal Pereira has undergone series of courses and workshops locally and internationally. Dr. Deepal Pereira, a member of Sri Lanka Medical Council, life member of Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians, member of Government Medical Association, secretary to Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians in year 2009 to 2010, author of Infant and Baby Care Advice for Parents, participated International Pediatric Congress IPA in South Africa in year 2010, Australia in year 2013, and Canada in year 2016. Participated about 300 television programs to educate public in Sri Lanka. As a research person to Medicare Health Exhibition in BMICH, and Dr. Deepal Pereira has participated education in public through television, radio programs, and newspapers. Dr. Deepal Pereira has a fellowship from Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians in January 2021. Dr. Deepal Pereira has published a book on baby and child care in 2011. Sir, it's a great honor for us to have you here for today's webinar despite of all your busy schedules. Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can ask it on chat or Q&A sections. Sir, over to you to conduct the today's webinar.
Thank you very much for your nice introduction. Today, we are going to discuss one of the most important topics these days whole world talk about. Because a lot of people dying with pneumonia due to COVID. Not only COVID, there are so many other causes leading to pneumonia, especially in children. Pneumonia, so definition defined as inflammation of the lung parenchyma. It's the leading infectious cause of death globally among children younger than 5 years. Pneumonia mortality directly linked with poverty. So majority we see in poor countries. Pneumonia is an important cause of morbidity in resource-rich countries like USA, UK, Australia. It's an important cause of morbidity, but it's an important cause of morbidity and mortality in poor countries like Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, South American and African countries. Yeah, this slide shows 1/3 of leading causes of death is pneumonia. 33% of childhood deaths due to pneumonia. It's a majority. But we'll discuss the other causes like diarrhea, 19%, neonatal sepsis, 15%, still malaria, 11%. Luckily not in Sri Lanka, but in India, Pakistan, and other Southeast countries. With Africa, HIV, AIDS 3%, meningitis 3%, measles still 4%, although we do measles vaccination in most of the countries in the world. Other infections 12%. In the United States, mortality from pneumonia in children has reduced from 97% between 1939 and 1996, achieved by development of antibiotics and vaccines and the expansion of medical insurance coverage for children. That is in America. Even in Sri Lanka, our statistics, we also had a lot of deaths due to pneumonia in the early 1940s. Now it has come down to very low percentage. But due to COVID, again, we will see more and more deaths due to pneumonia. Examples here given as measles, pertussis, Haemophilus B influenza, pneumococcal conjugate vaccine. These vaccines we started and drastically our mortality and morbidity has reduced. For pneumonia, there are risk factors. As I mentioned, low socioeconomic groups is the first category. Underlying cardiopulmonary and medical disorders also considered like congenital heart disease, they are more prone. Bronchopulmonary dysplasia, it's a childhood disease. Cystic fibrosis, we see in Western countries, majority of the patients, but in Sri Lanka also now we are diagnosing more and more patients with cystic fibrosis. Asthma, definitely we see a lot of asthma patients. Sickle cell disease, neuromuscular disorders, gastroesophageal reflux, tracheoesophageal fistulas, and immunodeficiencies. They are at increased risk of getting pneumonias. Don't forget, cigarette smoking disrupt mucociliary function and macrophage activity. Alcohol, substance abuse among adolescents increase risk of aspiration. That means cigarette smoking and alcohol both increase The risk of getting pneumonias these days is very risky. If you smoke cigarettes, if you take alcohol, you are at risk of getting pneumonia. You are at risk of dying due to pneumonia with COVID. The most cases of pneumonia are caused by microorganisms. There are non-infectious causes like aspiration of food or gastric acid, foreign bodies, hydrocarbons. Still, we see kerosene oil poisoning and lipoid substances. In addition, hypersensitive reactions and drug or radiation-induced pneumonitis also contribute to our statistics. One important cause of death and morbidity in children is community-acquired pneumonia. Child-acquired infection from the community should not be in a hospital care for the last 14 days prior to infection. Etiology is difficult to identify as cultures from the lung tissues is very invasive. Secretion cultures not reliable. Still we do in children. Blood cultures we do in children, but these cultures not always positive. We get negative result. It's very difficult to get secretion cultures from the children, but still we do blood cultures if we suspect pneumonias from the children. Yeah, bacterial infections, these are the common ones. Sorry, it's a small letters, small print. Streptococcus pneumoniae, group B streptococci, group A streptococci, Strep aureus, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, Chlamydia pneumoniae, again another chlamydia, Trachomatis, mixed anaerobes, gram-negative enterics. These are the common bacteria causing pneumonia. There are uncommon ones. In addition to bacterial pneumonia, there are viral pneumonias. Majority PCR viral pneumonias. So also commonly respiratory syncytial virus, parainfluenza types, influenza AB, adenovirus, uncommonly rhinovirus, enterovirus, and is some other viruses. Even fungal infections could cause pneumonias, especially immunocompromised. And these days we discuss about certain type fungi, histoplasma, blastomyces. Yeah, these days we discuss about the mucormycosis following COVID infections and rickettsial infections. Don't forget, still we see a lot of people and children with mycobacterial infections causing pneumonia. And in addition, some of the parasites also could cause pneumonia or pneumonitis. Pneumonia etiology is grouped by age of the patient. Less than 3 weeks, especially group B streptococci, E. coli, other gram-negative bacilli, sometimes streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae. 3 weeks to 3 months, majority respiratory syncytial virus and other viruses, rhinovirus, parainfluenza virus, influenza virus, and streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae type B, and non-typable because of the Hib vaccination. Now we see non-typable Haemophilus influenzae. If patient is afebrile, consider Chlamydia trachomatis. And 4 months to 4 years, again respiratory syncytial virus and other respiratory viruses, as I mentioned, rhino, parainfluenza, influenza, human metapneumovirus, adenovirus, and streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae, again type B and non-typable, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, and group A streptococci. More than 5 years, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, Streptococcus pneumoniae, Chlamydophila pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae, again type B and non-typable, influenza viruses, adenovirus, other respiratory viruses, and Legionella pneumophilia. Haemophilus influenzae type B is uncommon because of our routine immunization. Thank our immunization team. Again, age-based etiology of childhood community-acquired pneumonia. We should know the etiology, then we could treat, we could diagnose and treat. That's why I'm discussing. but same thing I discussed in the previous slide. So major causes of hospitalization and death from bacterial pneumonia among developing countries: Streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae, Staphylococcus aureus. But luckily in Sri Lanka, Haemophilus influenzae we vaccinate, so we don't see many. Typeable one, non-typeable one, we see. In children with HIV infection, HIV still we see in Sri Lanka and other developing countries. We see more patients with Mycobacterium tuberculosis, non-tuberculous mycobacteria, Salmonella, E. coli, Pneumocystis jirovecii, cytomegalovirus, these infections. Okay, we should know a little bit about pathogenesis, how the pneumonia happens in human body. So defense mechanisms against infection is very important. Mucus-related clearance, clearing of the airways by coughing. If you have the cough reflex, it's a good sign. So you can cough it out. So macrophages and secretory immunoglobulin A, if you have enough macrophages in your lungs and blood, and if you have enough secretory immunoglobulin A in your mouth, in your mucosa, in your lungs, in your respiratory system, and in your gastrointestinal system, you can get the resistance to all these viruses and bacteria, especially if you could get increased levels of secretory immunoglobulin A in your nose and mouth, probably you could get more immunity towards COVID. So we should start a vaccine to increase immunoglobulin A. Whatever the vaccines available, I think we increase the immunoglobulin G and M, but with the disease of the COVID, we get increased immunoglobulin G and immunoglobulin M. Acute infection, you get increased IgM. After some time, you get IgG, but you need to get increased IgA to get the preventive effects of vaccination to increase immunoglobulin A. Immunoglobulin A is very important, remember. Culture based on all studies, we used to do all the cultures. Yeah, lower respiratory tract is kept sterile by above mechanisms until infection. Recent use of culture independent techniques, high throughput sequencing methods. That's what we use in our now new PCR labs, sequencing methods to identify new viruses, the prevailing viruses, COVID virus, new strains of COVID virus. We use these sequencing methods. Suggest that the lower respiratory tract contains diverse microbial communities. Yeah, pneumonia results from disruption of a complex lower respiratory ecosystem. If we destroy our lower respiratory ecosystem, we will easily get pneumonias and other infections. Dynamic interactions between potential pneumonia pathogens, resident microbial communities, and host immune defenses. Yeah, resident microbial communities are very important. That's why we should not give antibiotics without a reason. And we should improve our immune defenses, immunity, by increasing our nutrition and even vaccination. All these are important rather than going for antibiotics. But sometimes if the child gets bacterial infection, pneumonia, we have to go for the antibiotics. Viral pneumonias. These days, we all talk about these viral pneumonias. COVID results from spread of infection along the airways, direct injury of the respiratory epithelium, which causes direct injury to the respiratory epithelium, results in airway obstruction from swelling, abnormal secretions, and cellular debris. Young infants have small caliber airways. Yeah, their airways are very small, so susceptible to severe infection, causing atelectasis, interstitial edema, and hypoxemia can lead to secondary bacterial infection. Even following COVID infection, COVID pneumonia, you will get interstitial lung disease, chronic lung disease. So bacterial pneumonias, most often respiratory tract organisms colonize the trachea and gain access to the lungs. Initially, they colonize the trachea and then gain access to the lungs, or direct seeding of lung tissue after bacteremia through blood. Pathologic process varies according to the invading organism. Mycoplasma pneumoniae attaches to the respiratory epithelium and inhibits ciliary reaction, cellular destruction, and inflammatory response in the submucosa. If you smoke, again, it will help the bacteria to settle and cause pneumonia. If a child gets recurrent pneumonias, we call recurrent pneumonia when 2 or more episodes in a single year or 3 or more episodes ever. If you get 3 or more infections, or 3 or more pneumonias, you can call it a recurrent pneumonia in a child, or 2 or more episodes in a single year, with radiographic clearing between occurrences. Right? There are again differential diagnosis of recurrent pneumonias. Etiologies like hereditary disorders, cystic fibrosis, sickle cell disease, disorders of immunity is very important, HIV, some immunodeficiencies, disorders of cilia, primary ciliary dyskinesia, Carter-Jenyns syndrome, the MCQ points probably, and anatomic disorders like pulmonary sequestration, lobar emphysema, congenital cystic adenomatoid malformation, gastroesophageal reflux, foreign body, tracheoesophageal fistulas, bronchiectasis, aspiration, aberrant bronchus. So then we'll discuss clinical features important for our GPs and other doctors, junior doctors. So vary with age. Commonly you see fever, increased respiratory rate, breathlessness, difficulty in breathing, cough, and wheeze or chest pain sometimes. Persistent fever more than 38.5 centigrades, chest recessions, tachypnea, then should consider bacterial pneumonia. Very high fever, chest recessions, and tachypnea should consider bacterial pneumonia. Cough may not be a feature as alveoli has few cough receptors. Sometimes you may not present with cough, but you will see high fevers, tachypnea, even chest recessions. Can present with extrapulmonary manifestations like the organisms like Mycoplasma pneumoniae. You will get fever, rash, joint pains, abdominal pain, jaundice, persistent hacking cough in Mycoplasma, and classically symptoms more severe than signs. Investigation, then we'll go for the investigations. Chest X-ray is very important, but we don't recommend to diagnose pneumonia. We have to go for clinical diagnosis. History, examination, should know how to examine the respiratory system. General examination, see ill-looking, dyspneic, febrile, cervical lymph nodes are there or not, BCG scar is there or not. Then respiratory system proper inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. That's the system we diagnose pneumonias. But chest X-rays are indicated in pyrexia with mild respiratory symptoms, fail to respond to initial antibiotics. If you suspect complications like pneumothorax, bad lobar pneumonias or bronchopneumonias, then you have to do a chest X-ray. Sometimes we used to do chest X-rays when we don't have a diagnosis. If the fever continues more than 1 week, or child is ill looking with high CRP levels, if we suspect, although we don't clinically get the signs of pneumonia, we may do a chest X-ray if we miss respiratory tract infections. And suspicions of underlying diseases like TB or bronchiectasis, chest X-ray is indicated. It shows viral pneumonia, hyperinflation with bilateral interstitial infiltrates, and peribronchial coughing. You see in viral pneumonias, but even in secondary bacterial infection, you will see. This is these radiographic findings are characteristic of respiratory syncytial virus pneumonia in a 6-month-old infant with rapid respirations and fever. Anteroposterior radiograph of the chest shows hyper expansion of the lungs with bilateral fine air spaces, disease, and streaks of density, indicating the presence of both pneumonia and atelectasis. An endotracheal tube is in place. I don't know whether you could see. 1 day later, second X-ray B. 1 day later, the anteroposterior radiograph of the chest shows increased bilateral pneumonia. Confluent lobar consolidation and pneumococcal pneumonia. Radiography findings characteristic of pneumococcal pneumonia in a 14-year-old boy with cough and fever. This posterior anterior 1A and the lateral B chest radiographs reveal consolidation in the right lower lobe, strongly suggesting bacterial pneumonia. Other investigation we do are full blood count, CRP, and blood culture, microbiological investigation in severe disease. Investigations continued. Here also I mentioned blood cultures, very important. Sometimes you will not see in the X-rays, but blood cultures will grow bacteria. Sputum for gram stain and culture in older children. Younger children, it's difficult to get sputum. Nasopharyngeal secretions for PCR, we do these days. So all the children are scared of PCR. If pleural fluid taken, microscopic culture and pneumococcal antigens. Serology for Mycoplasma and Chlamydia, bronchoalveolar lavage. This is very important for the GPs and the doctors working outside Colombo and not working in the pediatric ward. So if you want to admit a child, age below 6 months, immunocompromised child, toxic, if the child looks very toxic and ill-looking, moderate to severe respiratory distress, hypoxemia, oxygen saturation below 90 on breathing room air or sea level, complicated pneumonias, sickle cell anemia with acute chest syndrome, vomiting or inability to tolerate oral fluids. If he needs IV fluids or IV medications, then need admission. Severe dehydration, no response to appropriate oral antibiotic therapy. Social factors. These days, the affected by floods, then they don't have a place, so we may need to admit them. Inability of caregivers or administer medications at home or follow up appropriately. In addition, pleural effusions, empyema, abscess, bronchopleural fistulas, necrotizing pneumonia, acute respiratory distress syndrome, extrapulmonary infections like meningitis, arthritis, pericarditis, osteomyelitis, endocarditis. If you suspect all these, hemolytic uremic syndrome or sepsis, then you may have to admit the child to a pediatric ward. The management of community-acquired pneumonia as outpatient, we can do oral antibiotics. We are giving antibiotics because we don't know whether this is viral or bacterial. Antibiotics, paracetamol, should give paracetamol according to the weight. Good hydration. Parent to observe for deterioration. Ask the parent to see whether the child becomes dyspneic and very ill-looking. Then asked to get admitted to hospital. Lethargy, poor feeding, high unresolved fever. When we admit or when the child needs admission, may need oxygen, IV fluids, antibiotics, oral or IV, may need antivirals if we suspect viral infections. And very important, if the child is having pneumonia and fever settles, then we should start chest physiotherapy. When you give antibiotics, we could take a number of decisions, whether to treat with antibiotics or which antibiotics, which route, when to change from IV to oral to IV, duration of antibiotics. All children with clinical diagnosis of pneumonia should receive antibiotic. So bacterial and viral cannot be reliably distinguished because bacterial and viral difficult to distinguish. In developed countries, Australia, UK, even in America, their first-line drug is amoxicillin. If suspecting mycoplasma, no response to first line, then we may have to go for macrolides, clarithromycin, or erythromycin. If the child is not tolerating orally, if he vomits, With severe pneumonia, we need to start IV antibiotics. Then first-line drugs like ampicillin, coamoxiclav, or cefuroxime. Even in Sri Lanka, we may start coamoxiclav. Some children are resistant to amoxicillin. If suspecting life-threatening infections, we need to start cefotaxime, especially community-acquired pneumonias. We may need to start cefotaxime if we still looking. If suspecting Staphylococcus aureus or MRSA, we need to give either vancomycin or clindamycin. If Pseudomonas is suspected, ceftazidime or beta-lactam and aminoglycoside is used. There is no evidence on duration of treatment, but 5 to 7 days and may continue up to 10 days. If there is meningitis, we may need to do lumbar puncture and exclude meningitis. If meningitis, there we need to continue treatment up to 14 days. Community-acquired MRSA need longer duration of treatment. So we all should know about the complications of pneumonia, pleural effusion, empyema, pneumatoceles, especially after Staphylococcus infections, lung abscess, again following staph infection, necrotizing pneumonia, air leaks, pneumothorax. These days, in addition to pneumonia following COVID, you see air leaks, systemic infection with metastatic foci, atelectasis, and septicemia. Probably last slide, COVID pneumonia. We all talk about COVID pneumonia these days because majority of our people dying with COVID pneumonia. Although it is COVID pneumonia, it's a virus, COVID is a virus, but COVID pneumonia, majority, secondary infection due to bacteria. So we need to give IV antibiotics if we suspect COVID pneumonia. So we should not wait until the person needs oxygen or CPAP or ventilation. So better to avoid ventilation, try to give IV antibiotics early with oxygen and sometimes high flow oxygen or BiPAP or CPAP, but better not to go for ventilation. We wish our countries will be free of COVID soon. So thank you very much for listening for my short lecture on COVID pneumonia. But you could ask questions if you have questions. Now this is the question time.
So there is a question, can breastfeeding protect your child from pneumonia?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, you should continue your breastfeeding for the exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months. Definitely you will get increased immunity and protection from pneumonias. Even developing countries, WHO advises the developing countries, even American countries, South African countries, if you got HIV with TB or all these, to continue breastfeeding because breastfeeding increases your immunity, the risk of dying due to pneumonia and malnutrition.
So there's another question, sir. Is there a vaccine against pneumonia?
Yeah, yes. In Sri Lanka, so we are giving Haemophilus influenzae vaccine. In our pentavalent vaccine or hexavalent vaccine, Haemophilus influenzae is included. In addition, pneumococcal vaccine. So we give pneumococcal vaccine at the moment only in the private sector. Below 6 months, so we give 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and 1 year to 5 years, we give 2 doses. After 5 years, we could give 1 dose of pneumococcal vaccine. Synflorix, it's okay to mention the trade name. So there is a vaccine against pneumococcal vaccine. But as I mentioned, there are a lot of etiologies, lot of causes for pneumonia. So we could prevent common ones by giving these vaccines, but still there are bacteria causing pneumonia.
So there's another question. Irrespective of pneumonia, what are the safest actions to be taken if a child shows phlegm conditions during COVID pneumonia, COVID pandemic?
Other than pneumonias.
Yeah.
Okay. Continuing breastfeeding for the first 6 months and up to 2 years. Good nutrition. Child should get good nutrition. All the nutrients. Major nutrients like carbohydrate, protein, and lipids, and micronutrients including ions, minerals, other minerals, zinc, vitamins. So we should give a nutritious diet. And in addition, we may have to give antihistamines. But if we diagnose COVID, we need to separate the child. And again, don't forget to use your mask and keep the distance and hand washing to prevent.
Why COVID pneumonia getting critical even with a vaccine?
Yeah, if you get COVID pneumonia, that is not really due to virus, but virus causes pneumonia. But majority are due to secondary bacterial infection. So if you don't treat with correct antibiotics, it is lethal. It will cause death. So you have to identify, or you should treat with correct good antibiotics during that period. Otherwise, it can cause death.
Doctor, do you recommend the COVID vaccine for exclusive breastfeeding mothers, especially during first 6 months?
Yes. Now they recommend vaccine for breastfeeding mothers as well, because it will prevent COVID in the mother and the baby. Otherwise, we have seen, I think, 5-6 maternal deaths. So better to give the vaccine for breastfeeding mothers as well.
So those are the questions that we have come across.
Thank you very much. I think you got benefit from this lecture, but it's with this COVID situation, with all these difficulties, I managed to do is a simple, I think, very short lecture. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, sir, for conducting very informative webinar. I am sure it's a value addition for all of us. Thank you for all the participants who make this event a success.